if you want to make good choices, if you want to understand what you're doing so you can choose the best option for you, you have to start with the basics. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to start with the basics of auto insurance. And I'm going to be using the Insurance Information Institute, III.org. They have a great insurance handbook about the basics of auto insurance. And we're going to jump around to a couple other sources. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand the basics of auto insurance and what liability, comprehensive, collision coverages are and how they might best serve you. And we're also going to talk about ways to save. If you head over to autoinsurance.org, it's going to look like this. And there's a little tool here where you can enter your zip code and find rates and be on your way to saving a lot of money. So let's get started with the basics. First of all, we have bodily injury liability. Liability is what you are responsible for doing to another party. So bodily injury, this makes sense, is when you cause a crash or you run into somebody and they have injuries. Injury expenses can be so high, and a major accident could lead to hospitalization, surgery, rehab. It might even be that where a person can't work for a while. And if you had to pay for that out of pocket, there's a good chance you wouldn't be able to. And so that's why insurance is so beneficial. It helps you recover financially after an accident. And bodily injury liability is required by each state. Each state sets how much they require. It's always the state required minimum is always too low. You're gonna wanna beef up your coverage to make sense. While a state might require you to have $10,000 in bodily injury liability, you might want to have $100,000 per person and up to $300,000 per accident, because that more accurately reflects what you would really pay following a major accident in your liability to that other person. Now, medical payments here, number 2, medical payments or personal injury protection. If you live in a tort state, you will not be required to have this kind of coverage. However, you may still want to opt into it. If you live in a no-fault state, you will be required to carry usually personal injury protection, maybe medical payments. But in no-fault states, each party is responsible for their own injuries. So even if I'm a victim in an accident, I'm responsible to pay for my own injuries. And they did this to help reduce lawsuits, and they had several reasons. But the fact is that people are responsible for their own injuries. Now, those states still require drivers to have bodily injury liability, because if injury costs exceed a threshold, then that bodily injury liability will kick in. But that's what medical payments and personal injury protection, not everybody has to have that, depending on where you live. Property damage liability. Now I have a great little graphic here for you from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. So if you look at here, you can see how property damage liability, what it covers. Okay, so here we have over on this side, on the left side, we have the at-fault driver. On the top picture here, this at-fault driver hits this lighter gray car. And so the at-fault driver's property damage liability, PDL, coverage pays for the damage to the other vehicle. If that person hits a telephone pole, let's say, or a fence, or some other property, that property damage liability will also cover that damage. It doesn't have to be with a car. It could be with some other type of property. And then you see here between the two dark cars on the left, at-fault drivers collision coverage pays for vehicle damage. So for their own vehicle. So we are going to be getting into collision damage, but liability covers someone or something else. First party coverages cover the person, cover yourself. If you have the policyholder, they cover the policyholder. So we'll go back over here, and our next thing we're going to look at is collision coverage. And collision coverage pays for your damages following a collision that you cause. So with both collision coverage and comprehensive coverage, you will have a deductible. That deductible could even be zero, depending on your insurance company. They may offer you a $0 deductible. Some insurance companies have a vanishing deductible, where the longer you go without making a claim, the lower your deductible goes until it becomes nothing. Or you could go up to $1,000 or more. And what's really great is that if you're looking for ways to save money, a deductible of $1,000 could save you 40% on your insurance rates. And to see how deductibles could affect your rates, head over to autoinsurance.org, enter your zip code into that free quote comparison tool, and play around with how deductibles would affect what you pay, because your situation is going to differ from the nationwide average. But on average, $1,000 deductible compared to a lower deductible like $200 could save you 40% on premium. So it's worth looking into. So collision coverage, obviously, as the name implies, covers your car after you've had a collision, car accident. Then we jump down here to number 5, and we have comprehensive, and that's also a first party coverage that's going to cover your vehicle. But it's sometimes also called other than collision coverage, because comprehensive coverage covers like everything else. So it's going to cover, as you can see, some of the examples they give here, damage from fire, falling objects, missiles, explosions, earthquakes, windstorms, hail, flood, vandalism, riots, or contacts with animals such as birds or deer. So that's where it could get a little confusing. Some people think a deer is if you hit a deer, it's a collision, but it's actually covered by your comprehensive coverage. And comprehensive, like collision coverage, has a deductible. And so it says down here, if you have a loan, your lender is probably going to require that you have full coverage, because it protects their interest in their risk in lending you money. But if your car's paid off, you can decide. And then finally here we have uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. There are so many people on the road today, as many, depending on where you live, as many as 1 in 10, sometimes even more, drivers on the road have no insurance or not enough insurance. And so if they cause an accident, you're stuck, because yes, they are liable, but some people have no money. And so you're just never going to get payment for the damage they cause. Well, underinsured and uninsured motorists damage property, they have both property damage and bodily injury damage. Both of those types of coverage can protect you from the drivers that are out there that are driving, they're not following the law, and they're driving uninsured. Here, going back to what your rates would be with full coverage. So that's going to be comprehensive and collision coverage. You can see how the difference, there is a bigger difference between what females and males pay for younger age groups. The orange is the youngest age group. Once you get into your middle age, you might see a difference of $5 a month between what females and males pay. And at 30, on average, males pay about $11 more, and at 40, on average, females pay about $1 more. So insurance companies use all kinds of statistics to to formulate this. But full coverage is going to be your liability, comprehensive collision. It's going to cover your everything, pretty much road related. And so you can see it drops drastically. So at these rates, you can see how the companies compare. You've got this Country Financial on the left, and those has the lowest rates out of these insurers. And then on the right, we have Progressive, and they have some of the higher rates, especially for the younger drivers. So a quote comparison that you'll find here on autoinsurance.org is going to help you find the best rates. It's going to matter your age, where you live, all that's going to play a role in how much you pay and how much you can save. But now that you understand the basics of car insurance, you can really make an informed decision, get the coverage you need, get the deductible you need, and save money. And one more resource I'm going to share with you is types of auto insurance. This article by autoinsurance.org just kind of summarizes what I've been saying and explains the different types of coverage. It's a great resource. And then also on this page right here, you can compare quotes and find out which companies are a best fit for you. So just enter your zip code at autoinsurance.org and get quotes. It's free. It's easy. You might as well try it and see how much you can save.